Hey guys, welcome to this Blender for Beginners tutorial. My name is Tarek, your friendly neighborhood instructor, and today we will be making this really simple but awesome render that you can see on the screen. As the title suggests, this tutorial is for beginners and I will try my best to keep things simple and fun. If you've never used Blender before, please do not try to finish this tutorial in one sitting. Take a break between chapters and don't forget to take notes. With that being said, let's get started. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is go online to blender.org and click on the download button. Right now, the current version is 3.4.1, but this tutorial is valid for any version of Blender 3.0 and above. So let's download Blender. And I'm going to click on it to install it. So hit next, next, and install. Okay, it's done. Let's hit finish and close the window. And let's run Blender. So on this screen, you can leave everything as default. I'm not going to import any settings. I'm just going to go for new. So save new setting. Now just click anywhere and it's going to go away. Okay, let's make some changes together. So we're going to go to Edit, Preferences, and under System, go to CUDA. Make sure CPU and GPU are both selected. Mine's set to CUDA. And the undo steps, which is the number of undos we can have, I'm going to set it to 256, which is the max. Then let's go to the Keymap and change the spacebar action to Tools. By default, Blender is set to autosave preferences, so whatever you change here will be saved. You don't have to save separately, so just go ahead and close the window. All right, so this is Blender. If you look at the bottom here, it'll show you hints specific to what tool you're in. Right now it says left click is select, middle click is rotate, and right click is object context menu. So let's try it out. If you left click here, you see it selects it. Selection means it'll have an orange color. We're selecting this, left click to select, left click to select. And as you select, you can even see they're being selected here. You can select them over here as well. This window is called the outliner. And this is your viewport. And this is where we usually have settings for the objects in the scene. Now, the right mouse button says Object Context Menu, which basically means things that are relevant to that object. So things relevant to the camera are all these. Things relevant to the cube are all these. Things relevant to the light are these. The middle click says Rotate View. So let's try that out. Middle click on your mouse. And as you can see, we're now rotating around the scene. This allows us to look at things from a different angle. So from down here, from here, from here, and so on. In Blender, there are 3 different ways of moving around in the scene. Rotating is one of them, the one we just saw. The next one is called panning. If you press the Shift button on your keyboard, you can see it changes to pan. So if you press Shift, middle click, and move the mouse, we can go side to side. So we can rotate and go side to side, rotate and go side to side. And the third way of moving around in the scene is called zoom. So if you press Control on your keyboard, now you can see the hints at the bottom are changing. Control, middle mouse, and now we're zooming in and out. So once again, middle click to rotate, Shift middle click to pan, and Control middle click to zoom. So sometimes you might get stuck in this view. Just press your middle mouse button and drag and you'll come out of it. Okay? That's just snapping that's built in. Nothing to worry about. Alternatively, you can also see there's these X, Y, and Z coordinates here. So X is red, so X is this way. Y is green, this way, and Z is up. You can also click somewhere here and move it around. Before we move on, there's something I'd like to mention. Blender's keyboard shortcuts are very different from other 3D programs like Maya and Unreal Engine. Most 3D programs use the same shortcuts, but Blender does not. If we go to our preferences, Keymap, you can see at the top here, there's presets. There's Blender, Blender 27X, and industry compatible. Unfortunately, we cannot use the industry compatible preset in Blender because it's actually incomplete. Basically, what that means is if you're trying to follow other tutorials online, then your shortcuts are not going to match, and that's a big issue when you're new to the program. My solution to this is changing just how the navigation works in Blender. So what I do is I change the rotate, pan, and zoom to how it works in Maya and Unreal Engine. That way, when I'm moving between programs, at least the navigation is the same. The reason I'm mentioning this to you is if you have any intention of working in the industry as a professional artist, you will have to use other programs. So you might as well get used to it. However, if you only want to use Blender, then ignore everything I've just said and skip the next chapter. I'm going to show you now how to change Blender's navigation to match Maya and Unreal Engine. So in our preferences, let's go to Keymap. And here you'll see this 3D view section. So let's expand it and click on 3D view global. I'm going to stretch it out so we can see some more. The first thing we're going to change is rotate view. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of them. Look for the one that says middle mouse. Click on it and then click Alt, left mouse button. The shortcut has been changed. And now you can see this arrow over here. So if you ever want to reset your shortcuts, just press this arrow. Now let's look for pan, shift, middle mouse. I'm going to change this to Alt, middle mouse. So we got Alt, left mouse for rotate, Alt, middle mouse for pan. And let's find zoom, which is control middle mouse right here, and do Alt, right click. So Alt, left mouse, Alt, middle mouse, Alt, right mouse. Okay, preferences will be saved automatically, so just close it. Now, if you press the Alt key on your keyboard, you can see the hints at the bottom are changing. So now it says left click to rotate, middle click to pan, and right click to zoom. So Alt, left click, Alt, middle click, Alt, right click. Actually, I forgot to make one more change. Go back to preferences, navigation, turn on orbit around selection, and the zoom axis to horizontal. The nice thing about this setup is your left hand is usually by the Alt key anyways, so you can just press it and hold and then do the rest with your mouse. And it's actually faster. So I want you to play with the two different setups we just looked at, Blender way and the industry standard way, and see which one you get comfortable with. Let's proceed with that. All right, so I'm going to start with a new file now. Go to File, New, General. Don't save. Looks like we got the same scene again. So this is Blender's default startup scene. And it comes with a camera, a cube, and a light. We actually don't need any of these. So left click and drag, select everything, and press delete. Now we have a clean scene. If you want to make this the default scene in Blender so that anytime you go to new, it shows blank, the way to do it is going to File, Defaults, Save Startup File, and hit Save. So let's check it. Now let's go to File, New, General, and we have a blank scene. All right, let's start modeling. Usually when we model something, it's a good idea to have some blueprint or reference images to help us. For this project, I'm going to provide the reference image to you, and it will be in my Gumroad along with the project files. Check the link in the description of the video and grab it. It's free. You can just put $0 and get the file for free. To use the reference image, we need to activate an add-on. So let's go back to Edit, Preferences, go to our add-ons, and search for image. So we need this import, export, import images as planes. Turn that on. Okay. Extract the zip file you got from Gumroad, and you'll find an image file there. Just click and drag that onto your scene. As you can see, it is now in our scene, but it's like at a weird angle. It would be nice if it was straight, right? So let's delete this and make it straight. So I'm going to teach you a shortcut right now, and that is the tilde key next to the number 1 on your keyboard. If you press that, you'll get this menu. This menu allows you to go to the different camera views really quickly. So I can go to top, I can go to the right, I can go to the left, I can go to the front. And to get out of any of these, as I told you before, just rotate out. Okay. This view is called our perspective. Sometimes when you're in, let's say, the bottom view and you rotate out, you might think this is correct, but if you look at this side right here, it's actually upside down. We're going to turn it back around. Now we're back. Okay, so let's press the tilde key and go to our front view. Okay, we're in the front now, and let's drag and drop our reference image in here. It's a little bit to the side, not a problem. We can fix that by going to the object's properties, which is this orange icon right over here. That's object property. So click on it. So you can click and drag here, press 0, and now the image is at the center. One thing to keep in mind is it's very easy to change this by mistake while you're working. So we should lock this image so that it doesn't do that. And the way to do it is by going into the outliner, and then let's click on this funnel looking thing and turn on this arrow and that. So this, as you can see, it says disable selection. Now, if we disable it, we can't select it anymore. So no chance of accidentally changing it while we work. I'm going to rename this by double clicking on it, and let's call it reference image. Okay, so let's save this. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I usually like making folders for projects so I can save files in there. And I'm going to rename this tutorial _ 01 and save. Now let's press our tilde key and go to our front. Now, normally when we model something in 3D, we look at what we have to make and break it down into simple shapes. To me, this looks like a cylinder with a rounded top and a tapered bottom, right? So let's start by adding a cylinder to the scene. In Blender, anytime you want to add something, you press Shift and A, and you get this menu that says Add, and it has everything like mesh, surface, text, images, cameras, pretty much everything, right? So we're going to go to Mesh and Cylinder. This gives us a default cylinder. You see there's a menu that showed up over here. This gives us the default properties of the cylinder. We're going to keep everything at default. Just change the cap fill type to triangle. That's all we need, okay? So let's look at this. We have a cylinder. Obviously, the cylinder is quite big, so we need to make it smaller. In 3D programs, making things bigger or smaller is scaling. And to scale things, you press the S key. As you can see, now we can adjust it as needed. I'm going to press Escape to undo this operation and go back to our front so I can look at it properly. I'm going to press S again to scale it, bring it down, something like that. The scaling that we did, this is the actual mathematical operation. I'm going to just do 0.2. All right, that looks good. Now we need to make it taller, obviously, right? What we can do is, over here on the side, we still have that X, Y, and Z that we saw on the left side. This is the same thing. These are the properties of this object. So we can just click and drag here and make it go up. Let's say like 2.3. There's another way of scaling, which is specific to Blender, and I'm going to show you that now. So I'm going to Control Z, undo it, bring it back here. So let's press S. And if you look at the bottom of the screen now, you'll see a lot of hints. It says X for X-axis, Y for Y-axis, Z for Z-axis. We want to make it go up and down, which is Z. So let's press Z, and you see this blue line showed up, right? If you drag, you'll see it's only moving up and down, okay? So you could do the same thing here, and then set it to 2.3. So let's go back into our perspective view by rotating out. So our cylinder is blocking our reference view. I want to see my reference view. So the way to do that is, you see up here where it looks like two boxes, it says toggle X-ray. I'm going to click on it, and now we can see our image again, right? At the same time, because of this X-ray see-through mode, it's kind of hard to see. So what you can do is go to this overlays menu and turn on wireframe. There we go. Now we can see our reference image and our cylinder. Now, this entire time we've been in Blender, we were in object mode. You can see on the top left over here, it says object mode. Object mode allows us to do things globally, like moving them around and scaling, but we cannot actually fine tune anything. To fine tune things, we need to go to edit mode. So if you click on it, and you can see the menu over here change, the look of our cylinder change. There's actually a shortcut for this. So if you go back to object mode and you press tab, we're in the same thing, edit mode, as you can see. So let's go back to our front view, left click and drag select all of these. If you see what happened here, we actually selected all of these. These dots are called vertices. As you can see, you can select them individually. Up here, you can see 3 other modes. There's vertex, edge, and face. So let's go to edge. And now we can select these lines over here. Okay. Now let's go to face. And now we can select the faces. Okay. And there's also a shortcut for this. On the keyboard, it's 1, 2, and 3. If I press 1, it goes to vertex. If I press 2, it goes to the edge. If I press 3, it goes to the face. So I'm going to stick in the vertex mode. And let's go to our front view. The way this cylinder is right now, we cannot do much unless we add some more details, like extra edges and extra vertices. So how do we do that? Well, we can do what's called an insert edge loop by pressing Ctrl and R, and then you can see this yellow line appeared over here. Now you can left click and move it around. I want to move it to where the cap is, the top part. When you're happy with its position, just left click again. So we can zoom in, take a look at this. Okay, I'm going to add one more loop at the bottom of the cap. So Control and R again, left click and move it up, and left click again to let it go. Let's add one more loop to this area where it starts tapering. Okay, so Control R, left click and drag, and I think that's fine. So let's take a closer look. As you can see, our vertices up here, 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 and down here are not exactly lining up with our reference image. We need to adjust these things a bit. So how do you move things? Let's select all the vertices. Remember, we're in edit mode. And to move things in Blender, you press G for grab. As you can see, everything starts moving. We don't want everything to move like this. We just want to make it move up and down. And just like scale, if you look at the hint at the bottom, there's an option to press Z. I'm going to escape and do it again. So select everything, press G to move, and then Z to get our blue line. And then we're going to move everything up like so. There's another way of moving, which I personally prefer, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So let's undo everything. Okay. I'm going to select everything and go to this menu over here that says Gizmos. See where it says Move? And let's turn that on. Now we have an arrow. Let's just drag it to where we need it. Let's go to our top. Make it go to here. Okay. Select these guys. Something like this. Get these guys. Something like that. Okay. That looks good. Now we're going to use everything we've learned so far and do these tapers at the top and the bottom. So let's start with the bottom. So what I want to do here is press Ctrl R for an edge loop. And to get more than one edge loop, all we have to do is scroll the mouse wheel. 5. Yep, 5 looks good. So just left click to accept. And now we have 5 loops. So let's start with the bottom here. Let's select all of these guys and press S for scale and just take them in. Okay, I'm good with that. Select all of these guys, scale them in, select all of these, scale them in, select all of these, scale them in, and finally select all of these. Cool, now we have our taper. Let's do the same up here. So the first thing we'll do is add a loop, and I'm going to move it to where the tapering starts. It's good. And now we'll add a bunch of loops up here. So Control R again, and let's do 6 because it's a really sharp curve. So we'll need more faces to do this. So select the 6, click on it once, and then click on it again. And same thing. Select these guys, press S for scale, bring them in. Select all of these, bring them in. Select these guys, bring them in. You get the idea. And finally, these guys. The top is actually curved all the way, but ours is flat. So let's adjust the top. Select all of these guys, go back into our perspective view, and shift click on the middle here to deselect that vertex in there. So we have just selected the outside ring, not the point in the middle, right? Let's press tilde and go back to our front view, and let's drag these guys down. Let's go back to our perspective, turn off our wireframe and X-ray, and go back to object mode and see what it's looking like. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, let's save our work by going to File, Save As, and you'll see that it's red over here. That usually means there's already a file with that name. So what you can do is just press this plus button. It'll change the number. Let's save. Let's go back to our X-ray and wireframe and our front. I'm going to make this gap between the pen and its cap. And to do this, we're going to use a tool called extrude. Basically, extrude is used to push and pull things. So let's go back to our edit mode. So I'm going to press tab and press 3 to select the faces. Let's drag, select all of these. To extrude this, we're going to press E. And you can see it starts moving with the mouse. We actually don't need that. So just press escape, that's it. So it looks like nothing happened. If you look at it carefully, I click on this face right now and move it, it actually made another set of faces on top of the original. We need to take this extra set of faces and push them inward, so that will give us the gap. So to do that, go back to our front, select all these guys, and now press S for scale. And as you can see, now it's going inside. So there's an issue here. As it's going inside, it's changing the top and bottom, which I don't want. I want the top and bottom to stay in the same line as the body. So how do we do that? Let's undo, select everything, and press S for scale. So the hints at the bottom, you can see it says Shift Z for Z plane. That's the one we need to stop this behavior. Let's give that a shot. So once again, I'm going to select everything, press S for scale, Shift and Z. And now, as you can see, it's going in and out, but it's maintaining the top and bottom, which is what we want. I think that's good. And click on it and check it out in our perspective. Let's turn off X-ray and see what it looks like. Nice. We have a nice big gap. Turn off wireframe and go to object mode. Nice. We have our gap. All right. Let's turn these things back on again. X-ray. Back to front. Now, we're going to use inset. Basically what that does is, let me show you. So I'm going to go back to front. Sometimes you'll have this happen to you where your object just disappears on the screen. Select it in the outliner, press the tilde key and go to view selected and it's back. All right. Go back to our front and edit mode, which is tab. I want to be in the vertex mode. Let's select all these guys. Okay. And now press 3 on the keyboard. What that does is it takes those vertices you selected and changes to selecting the faces enclosed within the vertices, which is what we need. Now press I for inset. And as you can see, it's going inside. And we want to sort of stop here. You can use this to adjust it as well. Let's do 0.1. That looks good. And while this is still selected, now press E for extrude, and you can see it's coming out. And go back to our front. I'm going to switch to vertex mode by pressing 1, select all these guys, and move it up. And now, just like we did the cap, we're going to do the same over here to model the nib. So first, let's make a loop to where the tapering starts here. Okay, and now press Ctrl R. I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel. 5 is okay, I think. Let's select these guys. Scale, press S, and bring them in. Select these, scale, bring them in. Press S for scale, bring them in. And the bottom, same thing. Select all of these guys and shift select at the center. Go back to our front, raise it up a bit. Okay. And with that, we have finished modeling our pen. So let's turn off X-ray and wireframe. Go back to object mode. There you go. Our pen is done. Let's rename this. I'm going to call it pen body. And let's save the file again. File, save as, hit the plus button, save. Now that we've finished modeling, we don't need to see the reference image anymore. So in the outliner, click on this eye to hide it in the viewport, and then click on this camera so it doesn't show up in our renders. As you can see, our model is done, but it's very faceted. We can see all the different faces, and that looks pretty bad. We need to change this. And to change that, click on the pen, right click and choose Shade Auto Smooth. There you go. Now it's nice and smooth. It's smooth except for this section right here where there's a line and another one up top. We need to smooth that as well. To do that, we need to go to Object Data Properties, this triangle right here. Select the pen and then go here. And under normals, you'll see it's smoothing that we applied from here. The value is 30. So if we change this to something like, let's say 80, you can see the line disappeared from here. So we made it all nice and smooth, but it looks super boring. We need to make it look metallic. The way to do that is by creating materials for it. So how do you create materials? Well, select the pen and go to this red beach ball icon that says material properties. And as you can see, there's nothing here because this thing has no materials. Just press new. It's going to make a new material and we're going to change this metallic value to 1. Still looks the same, right? The reason it looks the same is because we are in solid shaded mode. So if you see up here, it says solid shading. If we move to material preview, there we go. Now we have a metallic looking pen. If you scroll down a bit here, you can play with this roughness value. A lower value makes it very chrome-like, and a higher value makes it flat. Let's do something like 0.25, okay? Nice. So the next thing we're going to do is make it look a little bit better. So in a normal pen, this gap in here will be darker. And obviously this nib down here will be of a different color as well. As you can see, in this case, it's not. So we need to assign different materials to these sections. And before we do that, it's a good idea to actually separate these pieces out so they're separate objects and assign materials to them. So to do that, let's go into edit mode, go to our front view. Actually, I'm going to go back to our solid shading mode so it's easier to see. I'm going to select all of these. It didn't get selected because I'm in vertex mode, so press 3 for face. Select these guys, right click, go to separate selection. As you can see in the outliner, now there's a new object. So this is the pen body, and this is this part we just separated. I'm going to rename this to pen inner. And let's do the same thing with the nib. Select the pen body. Make sure you're in edit mode and face. Select all these guys. Right click, separate selection. And we have another object right here. Let's rename this to pen nib. Okay, let's make a material for this nib. Go back out into object mode. And let's go back to our viewport shading material preview. So with the nib selected, let's go to the material. And as you can see, it's still using the same material that we used for the pen. I'm going to rename this material. We're going to call it M for material underscore pen body. So right now, even though we have 3 separate pieces, they're all sharing the same M pen body material, which means if I make a change to this, they're all still connected, right? So let's go to the nib and press this minus sign right here to remove this association. As you can see, now it doesn't have a color. So let's make a new material for it. Let's click on new. I'm going to rename it right away. M underscore pen nib. I'm going to give this a slight gray color and some metallic. Drop the roughness to like 0.2. Okay, that looks nice. Go back to our front view. Now for the inner part, I'm not actually going to make a new material. I'm going to share the material that's on the nib. Go to this white beach ball and choose pen nib. There you go. Now we have different materials applied to this pen. Let's save it again. Always save your files. Cannot stress this enough. Let's add a few more things to our scene. So we need a backdrop. If you don't know what that is, basically a backdrop is this curved thing that they use for taking photos and product shots in general, because it helps bounce the light nicely and gives nice reflections. So we're going to make something like this. And to do that, we're going to add a plane. So let's click on the plane and give it a size of 10 meters. Select the plane, hit tab to enter edit mode, and select this edge. We can't select because it's in face mode, so press 2 and press E for extrude. And I'm going to press escape to get out of this mode. And since we have the move gizmo turned on, we can just move it up like this. All right. So far, we've been working in the front view. And just so you get used to the different views, we're going to work on the right side now. That should be good. Now, if you look at the backdrop again, you can see it has a curve in this corner, and we need to make this curve. It's actually quite simple. Select this edge, make sure you're in edit mode, edge, and press Ctrl B to bevel. As you can see, it's sort of making a curve, but it's very flat. We need to add more loops into this. So while you're still in this mode, scroll your mouse wheel. If I scroll once, it adds one loop. Scroll it again, again, again. Give it a nice tight curve. Yeah. Go back to our object mode. I'm going to go back to our solid shading to see what it looks like. So just like our pen, This also has these facet lines over here that we need to fix. The fix is still the same, shade auto smooth, and that fixed it. You won't always need to change the value, but when you do, remember it's in here, object data properties, normal. So we're just going to leave it at the default. I'm going to rename this to backdrop. Let's go back to our material preview. So now we need to give this a material, but instead of making our own material, I'm going to show you another way of doing it. Open up your browser and head to polyhaven.com. It's a really awesome website that has free HDRIs, textures, and models. We're going to grab a texture from here. We'll go to Browse Textures and search for Concrete Floor Worn. This guy. Click on it. As you can see, it comes in many different resolutions. 4K is good enough for now. You can see the Blender logo over here, and you can download the scene files, which we are going to use. So let's leave it at the blend, hit download. I'm going to save it to my project folder. Once it's done, extract the zip file, and here's the blend file. So now, back in our scene, what I want to do is go to File, Append, and that's the folder we just extracted, and that's the .blend file that we need. So click on this and hit Append. Now it's showing us more stuff. These folders are the contents of this .blend file. So it has brush, camera, whatever. We need the material. So let's go into the material, and you can see red beach ball. So that's the material. Let's click on that, hit append. All right. Select our backdrop, go to the material and white beach ball. And here you can see concrete floor has been added to our scene. So let's click on it. And now we have the concrete texture. So it looks okay at the bottom here, but the top definitely has issues. And this is happening because the UVs of our model are messed up. So you're probably wondering, what are UVs? Well, it's not exactly a beginner-friendly topic, but I will try to explain. Here you can see a 3D model of a ball or a sphere, and we make it flat. And then on this flat image, we can apply a texture like the world map, for example, and then it looks like a planet. Similarly, if you click on this image, you can see like that's a cube. And if you make it flat, then this is what a cube's UV map looks like. So this flat version of a 3D model is called a UV map. And if it's not done correctly, then our textures will look wrong like our backdrop. Thankfully, it's actually quite easy to fix. Let's click on our backdrop and go to the UV editing tab up here. Click on this. So this left side is for the UV map. And in here, let's just select all of these guys, go to UV and click unwrap. Now you can see it flattened out our 3D model here, and that's what it looks like. So if we go back to our layout now, there you go. The texture has been properly applied. Now that we have our pen and our backdrop, we can start doing some test renders, and for that we need a camera. So remember, anytime you want to add something, press Shift and A, and here we have a camera. There's a camera right there. Let's pull it out a bit. As you can see, the Blender camera came in at a weird angle, which is not useful for us. So let's go to the object properties. Here you can see the rotations are weird. So let's make this 90, let's make this 0, and make this 90. Now it's looking straight. Now that we have a camera, let's see what the camera is seeing. So press the tilde key, view camera. So it looks like we need to adjust our camera because it's below the floor. What we're going to do is move your mouse to the side over here in this corner, and you can see it changes to like a plus sign. Left click and drag out. So now we have two views. We're going to keep this as a camera view, and on this side, we're going to go into our perspective. You can adjust this as needed. Right now, this camera is in landscape mode, and I want to change it to portrait. And to do that, let's click on our camera and go to this output properties. And it's 1920 by 1080, as you can see here. Let's just switch this around to make it 1080 by 1920. Now we have a portrait mode. So in our perspective view with the camera selected, let's move it up so everything fits on the screen. Obviously, the pen needs to move up. So Shift select all three in the outliner and just move it up. With the pen in position and everything in frame, let's hit F12 to render. Our render looks nothing like what we're seeing over here. So what's going on here? in our viewport, we are in material preview mode, which is this one. If we change this to the next one over, which says render, this is the render we got. So clearly there's a disconnect between our material preview and our render. If you click on this arrow, which says shading, you can see there's this forest HDRI that Blender is using to light the material preview scene. And if you click on it, it shows you some more. Let's choose this studio.exr file. Now we need to tell Blender to use this studio.exr file in our render. So to do that, we need to go to the shading tab up here. So you remember when we made the materials for the pen and the backdrop? So if you click on it, you can see it says M pen body and it shows you this network. If you click on the backdrop, you can see this big network. This is actually how textures and materials are made in Blender. Right now, this is in object view, as you can see over here. So whenever we click on objects, it updates accordingly. Let's change this to world. And in here, you can see it shows background as a gray color. So if you check out our layout and go to render, this render is a result of the gray background. So that's what we need to fix. So let's go back to the shading tab. So here we need to add that studio.exr file. And the way to add things as usual, Shift A and go to texture, environment texture. And let's just drop that here. Now let's click on open and find the studio.exr file. You can find that if you go to program files, Blender Foundation, Blender 3.4, 3.4, data files, studio lights, world. And here you can see these are all the files that we saw earlier. And here's our studio.exr. So let's select this and hit open image. So left click here, drag it to here and let go. And that's it. Let's go back to our layout tab and press F12 to render. And now you can see we have a nice render. I'm going to resize this render so it fits better on my monitor. So change this to 720 by 1280. And let's do a render again. Okay, let's make this render look a little bit better. Select the camera and go to this camera icon right here. And see where it says depth of field. Let's turn that on and open it. Click on this eyedropper and select the pen. Basically, this is telling the camera that this pen is our focus. So keep that front and center. And let's change this f-stop value to 0.1. You can see it actually changed here. So if I zoom in a bit, it was at 2.8. Everything is sharp. If I drop it to 0.1, now it's blurry. Let's do another render. Where the pen is, it's in focus. And everything else is not in focus, right? Okay, let's add some more awesomeness to this render. Go to render properties over here. Turn on ambient occlusion, turn on screen space reflection. Immediately you can see a change over here. And if you're wondering why this looks different from this, is because this is still using the forest HDRI. When we split the view, that was what was selected. So we can change that. Actually, I'm going to keep this on solid, so it's not distracting us from what it should look like. If you see this preview right here, you can see it's giving us reflections. Ambient occlusion is not that noticeable, but it's there. So let's do a render again, see what that looks like. All right, it's starting to look really nice. Okay, you know the drill. Save the file, hit the plus, and save. All right, let's add some decorations in the back and try to make this look even more nicer, right? So Shift A, by default, we have really simple objects here, but Blender actually allows us to add more things to this menu. And to do that, let's go to Edit, Preferences, go to our add-ons and search for Extra. So we have Add Mesh, Extra Objects, not the curve, Add Mesh, okay? Turn this on, close. Now let's press Shift and A, and you can see we have many more objects. So let's choose the monkey here. So we have the monkey in the scene and we need to rotate it. And to rotate, you press R. As you can see, it's rotating. I don't like this way. So what I'm going to do is go to gizmos and we have rotate. So if we turn that on, we can just click like this and rotate it. I'm going to move it back, take it up to the corner over here. And You don't have to click on the lines every time. You can just click anywhere and turn it like that. Now press S to scale it up a bit, and I think that's good. A bit so it's looking at the pen. Okay, let's make another object. So press Shift and A, mesh. Let's do diamonds. Brilliant diamond. So these are the default settings. I'm going to keep everything the same. I'm going to move this guy to the back, somewhere up here. And I'm actually going to make a material for this. So press new, rename this to M diamond. Let's rename the object as well, diamond. And let's make it fully metallic. And let's drop the roughness a bit. Let's try 0.3 for now. And I'm going to rotate it so it's sort of catching the light like that. Let's scale it up a bit, I suppose. Move it out of the way. I'm going to give this a little color. So be something like that. Just keep in mind the pen is our focus. So you can add as many decorations you want in the back. Just make sure your eye doesn't go to that. And what I mean is if I change this to like a bright color, that will be fighting for focus in our scene. We don't want that. So I think something like that is good. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, let's add something else here. What we got? Extras, simple star. I want to zoom into this by pressing the tilde key and view selected. For this guy, I'm going to make a slight change. So go to the edit mode, make sure you're in vertex, select the center point and just raise it up a bit. Let me make it straight. Move it up. I'm going to send this to the back over here so it's not in the way. That looks good. For this guy, I'm going to assign the pen nib. There we go. See if you can catch some more light. Yeah, that looks good. And finally, let's add step pyramid. I'm going to change the number of steps to 3. I'm going to change the initial width to 3. Change the height to 0.4 and reduce step by 1. I like how that looks. Let's move the pen up. Like so. I'm going to rotate it a bit. Select the pyramid, scale it up a bit. Select all 3. Move it back here. For the pyramid, I'm going to give it the same material as the pen body. All right, let's take a render. So F12 to render. All right, not bad. The pyramid looks a little weird. It's very sharp and reflections are messed up. So let's see if we can fix that. For the reflections, we can just increase the roughness. Let's try 0.4. Let's take another render. Okay, that's not bad. And we need to reduce the sharpness. So we have to add bevels. Like we added bevels to this backdrop, you can add that to edges as well. So to do that, go into edit mode, make sure you're in edge selection, which is 2, as you can see right here. Select these. This gizmo is a little distracting. So I am going to turn them off. Select all of these. Now press Ctrl B to bevel. And let's reduce the number of bevels like so and make it really tight over here. Let's take a render again. Nice, much nicer. I like how smooth it is. I think I'm going to change the color of the pen a little. I'm going to click on the pen and give it yellowish, reddish kind of color. So it's sort of complementing that diamond in the back, but it's still unique enough that the pen stays as our main focus. Let's take a render. There we go. Nice. I like it. I'm going to adjust the camera a bit because the scale of these objects look weird and I don't really want to change their scales yet. Let's see if I can just get by with moving the camera. So I'm going to turn on my move gizmo back, push it in so the pen looks bigger. Okay. Let's press F12 for a render. Yeah, I like it. looks better. One final tweak would be go to the camera and change this f-stop to 0.15. Okay, that's good. Let's save this image. So let's go to image, save as, and in here, just going to call it render 01, save. Now, we could end the project right here, but this is actually not the best quality render we can get out of Blender. To get the best render possible, we need to change our render engine. And all this time, we've been using Eevee, which gives us fast renders, but it's more of an approximation of what it should look like. Blender comes with another engine called Cycles, and that's what we need to use if we want high quality renders. So to get that, let's go to this DSLR camera looking thing that says render properties, and you can see it's set to Eevee. And we can change this to Cycles. Now keep in mind, with this ambient occlusion screen space, these are fake effects that Eevee is using to give us the renders. When we switch to Cycles, you'll see those are not there anymore because it's not needed. Cycles actually gives you correct, accurate renders. Mine's set to CPU, but I have a graphics card, so I can change it to GPU. If you don't have a strong graphics card, you can try CPU. It will be slower, but you will still get a good render. I'm going to set this to the GPU, and under render here, I am going to reduce the samples to 64. We can increase this value later. The higher this value, the more awesome the render will look, but it also takes longer. So at 64 cycles GPU, let's press F12 for a render. As you can see, it's taking longer. It shows you time remaining. Okay, it's done. Right off the bat, this looks awesome. And if you have any doubts, let's save this image and look at them side by side. I'm going to call this render 02, save. I'm going to open render 1 and render 2. I'm going to add it up here and add this guy up here. So this is our Eevee render and this is our Cycles render. As you can see, this star right here has no shadows. Actually, none of them have shadows. The diamond doesn't have shadow, the monkey doesn't have a shadow, the pyramid doesn't have a shadow, and wherever it's touching the surface, it sort of looks weird, but here you can see everything looks correct, as it should. Okay, I'm going to change this to 256, just to show you how long it takes, and press F12 for a render. As you can see, the time has gone up. Took longer. Let's do another one with 512. Press F12. 7 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do 1024. As you can see, the time goes up every time you increase this value. All right, let's save that. We'll call it render 3 and save. All right, and with that, we are done. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you've successfully finished your very first Blender project. I do have a homework assignment for you. I want you to put your own spin on this project. Change the colors, materials, textures, models, whatever you like, and when you're happy with the result, post it online and tag Entry Bevel on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I want to see what you guys can do. Having said that, this was my first ever tutorial and I've tried to make it simple, but Blender is quite hard. So if I did a decent job or I failed, please let me know so I can make better videos. I do have a lot of tutorials planned for this channel, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get notified when they drop. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.